We have now entered the second half of the Wawa Cup Series chase, and only 5 races remain until we crown a champion on Labor Day weekend at the Darlington Raceway. Today it's the final road course race of the season, and quite possibly the wildest road course race, and maybe even the wildest race of the season. We are here at the Watkins Glen International, running the long course and skipping the chicane as we always do. A 3.4-mile road course in the Finger Lakes of New York for the Lake Effect Ice Cream 400K. 19 laps of action here today in the final road course race of the season in the 2024 Wawa Cup Series. Hello everybody, this is AG here, and welcome to the Watkins Glen International. We are here for the 26th race of the season, the 6th race of the chase. I tell you what, it's gonna be a wild one, because if you know the starting lineup, which you guys saw on Wednesday, you know our points leader Matt Tuck starts dead last in this race. A bad lap in qualifying put him back in there, and it's gonna be interesting to see if he can work his way from the back to the front. That's what Blaine Key sort of did last week at Road America to salvage a decent finish, but who knows how it's gonna play out here today, because if you remember last year, it was the Grattan Autosport teammates that got into each other, and Matt Tuck and Justin Seidel took each other out, and then ultimately gave the championship to Drew Webb. Might be a different story here today, because we got Justin Seidel starting on the pole for this race for Racing Motorsports, alongside the driver who won our last race at Road America, Ludovic Charette, who is arguably in the best position to start here at Watkins Glen. And I'm joined alongside the Grattan Autosport owner, Stuart Grattan, and Nathan Stapleton as well. But Stuart, I will start off with you, and obviously it was the best of times and it was the worst of times in qualifying for your team. Ludovic starts on the outside pole, which, like I said, is arguably the best place to start here at Watkins Glen. But I'm going to focus on your points leader driver, Matt Tuck, starting in dead last. What does he need to do in this race to salvage a good run and try to hold on to this points lead going to our next race at Richmond?
Well, you look at last year's race, I know we'll talk about that incident at detail a lot, because it really did shake up the way things played out last year. But Ludovic, starts second, did a great job in qualifying. Started last in the race, in this race a year ago, and got a top 10 out of it. I don't expect it to play out the same way, obviously, as it did last year. I think it'll be a bit more calmer. We'll still see a bit of chaos, particularly off of turn 11. We see a lot of cars hit the wall there, and it really does shake up the order quite a bit. And potentially with pit stops, cars hit the barrels at the pit entry. So there's a lot going on there. But you guys got to keep it clean, and if you're Matt, move your way through the field. I think that's relatively the way to go. It's going to be a difficult challenge, because it's not a long, it's 19 laps, so you don't have a whole heap of time to move your way through the field. Strategy might play into effect as well, and then as a race team, we just got to nail everything down, and we say that across the 3 cars. Obviously, Ludovic starts second, and Carson Miller, who's the hot seat driver for us this week, starts 4th, which is a phenomenal qualifying effort, and really looking forward to seeing what he could do tonight.
And of course, Carson Miller won on Wednesday in the sprint series in that wild race we had there. And Nathan, I'm going to ask you here, it could get very wild on pit lane. The way the strategy works out here is everyone goes to about lap 8, lap 9, and then from that point to the finish, they're coming down at all sorts of different laps. When do you want to come down? What's the best strategy? Do you undercut? Do you overcut? How do you win this race from pit lane?
Well, you mentioned that it's going to be very unpredictable of what this white strategy will be. Watkins Glen is unpredictable all over the racetrack, but it can also be unpredictable and wild on pit road. Sometimes the hardest part of pit road is getting onto it without hitting the pit barrels on entry, but as far as when to pit, I don't know. It's about, like you said, they would pit about lap halfway, and depending on that, if they're short, they might have to just go ahead and split the final stint in half. But if they want to stretch it, maybe they can. It's going to be close, but at the end of the day, someone's going to win at Watkins Glen at one of the best road courses in the world.
And it's going to be a good one here. Of course, a very high-speed road course, very fast-paced road course as well. And you know what? Anyone can get this win, especially if you're starting in the top 10 based on how crazy this race can get at times with the attrition. All right, here's how they line up in the points. Matt Tuck starts in 40th, is your points leader by 16 points, ahead of Nicholas Amadeo, Rogaldorn, and Blaine Keys, who are all tied for second, 16 points behind. Amadeo starts 13th, Blaine Keys starts in 6th. Much better start for him than it was last week, and Rogaldorn starts in the 18th position, so they all have a very good chance at surpassing Matt Tuck in the championship standings after this race. Ludovic Charette, our outside pole sitter, tied with Jack Haas for 5th in the points, 19 points behind, and then Thomas Troxel and Kirsten Bell, realistically the only two drivers who are still in championship contention. I would say Troxel 23 behind, Kirsten Bell 24 behind. Troxel starts 3rd here in this race, and Kirsten Bell in the 93 starts, well, I didn't write that down because I wrote 39 down twice, so I will get that information to you here in just a moment on where Kirsten Bell starts. She actually starts in the 5th position, right behind Thomas Troxel, so good starting position for her as well. Drew Webb 78 behind, Braden Perez 79 behind, Trey Bartow 104 behind, and Daniel Paulus Jr. 106 behind. Other than Perez, who starts in the 8th position, all those drivers start deep in the field here today and are essentially out of contention. Of course, mathematically, they still have a shot, but realistically, I don't think they're going to be able to catch up, which is a shame for Drew Webb, who is the defending champion. It has not been a good chase for him and Titan Fury Racing. All right, let's go ahead and get these drivers a roll-off here from Watkins Glen International. And as we mentioned earlier, Justin Zidell in the number 43, starting on the pole position for this race alongside Ludovic Charette. Of course, that was the car that Justin drove last year in this race, and we all know what happened right there in turn number 1. Carson Miller to the outside of Thomas Troxel there in row number 2. And Carson Miller, a hot seat driver in the Grattan Autosport machine. That just showcases the strength of those Grattan Autosport cars, and a great run for Carson Miller in qualifying. Unfortunately, the same couldn't be said for Matt Tuck. We got Kirsten Bell and Blaine Keys in row number 3, a couple of chase drivers right there. Braden Perez, Jack Haas in row number 4, and then Philip Torres and Andrew Miller round out the top 10 starting positions. Deeper in the field as we go along here, Nicholas Amadeo, they're starting in the 13th position. Rogaldorn starting in 18th, midway through the field. Hopefully he does not get caught up in a wreck again, like he did last week at Road America. Not a good run for him in that race. There's Trey Bartow. Deeper in the field, Daniel Paulus Jr. Not a good starting position for Drew Webb. And the car Drew Webb's going to be driving next year does not have a good starting position, as Matt Tuck qualified in the 40th position for this race. He's got a lot of work to do to make that ground up in these 19 laps. All right, Stuart and then Nathan, who do you guys think is going to victory lane here in this Lake Effect Ice Cream 400K?
I was going to tempt fate, but I don't think it will be well received by the game. So I'm going to go with Blaine Keys in the 41. Starts in the 6th position on that outside where you want to be at the start. I think he's got a good shot to get that 5th win of the year.
I'm gonna go with a driver that needs a good one. Does not have a wide yet from that season. Give me Ace Garcia to get a job well done here today.
We'll have to see if that ends up being the case. Ace Garcia has shown a couple flashes of brilliance as of late. We'll have to see what he can do starting there in the 12th position here today at Watkins Glen. All right, here we go. 5 races remain until we crown a champion here in the Wawa Cup Series. This might be the most dangerous race of them all. Here we go. We're green flag racing at the Watkins Glen International in the Lake Effect Ice Cream 400K. And a great jump at the start for Ludovic Charette. I know that's exactly how you wrote it up, Stuart, for the start of this race, but how about the Racing Motorsport teammates battling with each other there for the 3rd position? Justin Zidell trying to hold his teammate and his championship competitor teammate of Blaine Keys off They are still side by side as they enter the boot. Blaine Keys is going to be able to clear his teammate for third. Thomas Troxel, Braden Perez, Andrew Miller. Kirsten Bell slipped back a little bit right there. Matt Tuck looks like he's gained a couple of positions in the back of the field ahead of Christian Master and Drew Webb, but thankfully a clean start here in this race as Ludovic tries to pull away from his Sprint Series teammate of Carson Miller, running in the second position with Blaine Keys right behind him there, trying to get around the 11 and find a way to the 51.
Yeah, perfect start for my two guys from second and fourth to get to first and second right off the jump there was fantastic. And that was big by Blaine Keys to get around Justin Zidell very, very quickly. Just needed to clear that 43, his teammate, of course. And, well, he has to get around this 11, try and stay with the 51. This is where I said, you know, you can lose a bit of time if you go wide and hit the wall. You lose a lot of time to the cars behind, as Charette actually lost a fair bit of time to Miller and Keys. Didn't hit the wall, but didn't do himself any favour, and now Miller under a bit of pressure from Keys for second.
Blaine Keys trying to get that run on the inside. That is so hard to do in turn number one. That's why Charette and Miller got the advantage there at the start of the race ahead of Justin Zidell. Zidell slots into the fifth position, but he's under fire from Andrew Miller. Not a good entry through the S's right there, and Miller might have a very good opportunity at taking that fifth spot away. Looks like he's going to try to do it, and Blaine Keys looking to get around Carson Miller here for the second position. And it's going to be tight going into the carousel. Miller doing all he can to block that 41. And the 11 holding them off. I know you like seeing that one. Chris Carson Miller, just happy to be here. I think it's his first career Cup Series start. Got the win on Wednesday in the Sprint Series race, and that wild Sprint Series race that we had. And I know you like seeing this, Nathan. Andrew Miller in the top five as he gets around Justin Zidell for that position right there.
A great one from Andrew Miller in this number 97. Almost the close 97 in the Wawa Cup. He's not been a good car, definitely been worse than the 98. But, you know, it's going to be interesting of what that 97 can do with taking opponent in that car next season. Seeing some potential out of him late in the season, and hopefully he can keep on improving that 97. And unfortunately, Stewart, you know who's improving? Blaine Keys. He just got that second position away from Carson Miller, and now you might have Keys versus Chouette for the top spot.
Very good run.
I think
there
it was
for the
inevitable
41.
that, sorry, Alex. I think it was inevitable that the 41 was going to get around the 11. As you see Matt trying to find his way through past a couple of guys, including the guy who will be driving this car next year. And there you go, right there. That's Samet Oskin in the 73 hitting that outside wall. They do that a lot here at Watkins. They'll do that frequently enough to a point where it really can play into effect. As we've got a gaggle of cars here with Kirsten Bell, Jack Haas, Evan Frost Racing teammates, Braden Perez, another chaser there, Roberto Crown Jr. with a good run in the 5. But off of turn 11, we've seen the cars hit that wall, and we've seen races determined by that. I remember an IndyCar race from a couple of years ago that I don't remember who was actually driving that race, who ended up winning that race, but the leader hit the wall in the final turn and lost the win because of it. So it is something that do have to keep in mind, of course, when pit stops come around as well. Cars will hit the tyre. Oh, sorry, might hit the barrels. That's another thing to keep in mind. There's, I think Blaine Keys actually hit the barrels last year from memory, so he'll be hoping to not do that again, particularly in second place at the moment. And he looks really quick. He's taking the ideal racing line there. You saw Charette ran a bit wider. Blaine Keys had a bit of a tighter line through that turn, and now closing in a bit as looks like Andrew trying to find a way around Thomas Troxel for the fourth position.
And how about Miller there? Trying to get that position away from Troxel. Great run for Andrew Miller in this race. Great run for your last name to be Miller in this race. 2 Millers in the top 5. You know, Stuart, you just sparked my memory of the race that we had here. Would have been 6 years ago. And it was this very race, the Lake Effect Ice Cream 400K. Blaine Keys did the same exact thing that you described, was coming to the checkered flag, the race leader, overshot turn 11, and gave the win to Luke Rainey. And it happened again 4 years ago when Shane Lake did the same thing to Matt Dalio. So, little different era now for these guys with the ratings and all that. I think they do it a little bit less, especially these top guys. But something to keep in mind, Blaine Keys, he made that mistake here before, and he may be thinking about that. Now that I've mentioned it, I'm sure he's definitely thinking about that now. And with this championship on the line, with Matt Tuck as far back in the field as he is, as we have a couple guys who are a little bit off there. Avery Alford and Brady Mardi Gras, who have fallen to the back of the field right there. I'm not entirely sure if something happened to him or not, but Matt Tuck a little bit off the pace from the rest of these guys. I'm wondering if he had to check up because of an incident off the exit of the corner. And that's more time there for Matt Tuck that he's going to have to make up on the cycle of pit stops. Expecting 2 stops in this race, of course. Going to be very fascinating to see how that ends up shaking out, especially once we get to that second cycle, because that second cycle runs pretty much through the whole second stint, because some guys come early, some guys come late, and you never know when they're going to come down. Blaine Key's only about a second behind Ladovic right in this race, but Ladovic going for 2 road course wins in a row. We'll have to see if she can pull it off, as Andrew Miller once again trying to get around Thomas Troxel for 4th.
Miller took it, Troxel took it right back. Now Miller wants that spot again after he's trying to defend it, and he's gonna get it back from Troxel, but Troxel might want it back as Miller's gonna go over the curb. Watch out for Seidel. Well, no, that's not Seidel. That's Ace Garcia in the 44. Oh my goodness.
There's Seidel.
Those two, I got give it a great one for Ace Garcia. Like I said, you get a good one, doesn't have a line, and
he's got it.
Maybe we can nudge. Top 6.
Andrew Miller with a great move in the turn 1 on Thomas Troxel. We don't see that inside lane work too often there, but Miller got it to work, and now Ace Garcia trying to close in on Troxel here. That's 62. May not quite be up to speed with the rest of these guys. These guys about 4 seconds off. They're still behind Carson Miller here, Sprint Series driver, in that 11 machine. Kirsten Bell up to 7th now. She got her on Justin Seidel. Roberto Crown Jr. in the top 10, and Jack Haas rounds out the top 10. Nicholas Samedeo with a solid run. He is 12th. First had a much better run last week at Road America. Not a good run for Rogel Dorn. He is sitting there in 18th, right where he started this race. And he's not moved up. And then, of course, the other championship competitor is Matt Tuck, who is a little ways behind now, sitting in the 37th position, 20 seconds off of the race lead, and his teammate there of Ladovic Charette. So, going to be fascinating to see if he can work his way through the field on the cycle of pit stops. Nicholas Samedeo looking to take 11th here from Braden Perez. And every point matters in this championship, and a couple of positions right here could give you the championship once we head to Darlington 4 weeks from now. And just ask Nicholas Samedeo, who lost the championship by 2 points last year. We'll go ahead and take that 11th spot away. Jack Haas right ahead of him. He's the next target for that 59. Got this gaggle right here. Andrew Miller going to try to get around Carson Miller here for the 3rd position. And I think eventually that'll be the case, especially if Carson does that. And that right there is driver ratings. A lot of these guys, Andrew Miller, Ace Garcia, Thomas Troxel, they have built up their driver ratings throughout the year. Carson Miller, obviously a Sprint Series driver, no driver ratings on that car. And right there is the mistake that you make if you don't do your driver ratings, especially comes into effect on tracks like this where you have a corner like that. And now Andrew Miller up to the 3rd position, trying to close in on Blaine Keys and Ladovic Charette.
Yeah, pleasant surprise to see Andrew Miller up here in this race. He's started from 10th, has worked his way up. It hasn't been a great year for him, but we're looking to. He hasn't won a Wawa Cup Series race, so we're looking for his first today. Just wanted to talk about Nicholas Samedeo a bit in the 59, because, of course, he almost won last week and has worked his way up extremely well at a track. It's hard to get past people at times, and to be right now in 11th position is a very good run. But particularly with the way how tight these points are, you look at it's really important this race for these guys to get these good runs and move their way through the field with Tuck as low as he is. And then, I mean, you've got 2nd through 8th in points are separated by 8 points. So, I mean, every point is, and every position is so vital. And particularly for Troxel and Bell here are going at it. And, for right now, they're 7th and 8th in points, are only separated by a point. So they've got to really work their way through the field here really quickly. And we're going to see cars pit in about a lap or two, maybe even this time. I would personally like to see Matt Tuck come in really early and just run in some clean air, get some clean track, fresh tyres, and get some track position. I think that's the right way to go for him in this race.
We'll have to see if you guys end up making that call here, because if that does end up being the case, I agree with you. I think you would actually gain at least some little bit on the racetrack. But not going to come down right here. As a matter of fact, ooh, we got the 50 machine trying to come down the pit lane right there. That is Nathan Faden. So we'll see. I mean, that's the strategy Faden is going to do. They listen to you there at Appalachia Motorsports with their hot seat driver, at least. But one thing that these top 4, top 5, they kind of have a lot of, a lot of space, I should say, in between each of them, and that's going to give them a lot of advantages going down the pit lane. Going to be a clean entry. Maybe not necessarily a clean exit if you got some guys trying to come down the pit lane, but it's going to help them be a little bit faster on the pit lane once we get this first stop, which will help solidify their spots on the racetrack. How about your pick there, Nathan? Ace Garcia in the top 5 for Millennium Motorsports. A great run for Ace Garcia. Let's see here. He comes into this race 35th in points, but he does have 3 top 10s and a top 5 this season. He's had that horrific stretch there through the spring where he essentially had a mechanical failure or wrecked out in every single race. But he has definitely come on a lot stronger as of late. Does not have a ride yet for next season. We'll have to see how well he can do here in this one as it plays out. Also got a shout out Roberto Crown Jr. Great run for them here as they run in the 9th position. Trying to get around our pole sitter of Justin Zeidel. There's Jack Haas in the middle of all this as well, holding on to a top 10 run. Roy Dorn continuing to slip back a little bit there in that 74 machine. Battling with Brian Webb, who has surpassed him, and then Matthew Hubert, Seth Cole. Not necessarily a good spot to be in here at Watkins Glen with all of those guys right on you. If one of them makes a mistake, it's going to be hard to avoid that mistake, and Matt Tuck just overshot the wall. I'm sure you didn't like to see that, Stuart. We'll see where Faden ends up slotting in relation to Matt Tuck as it all cycles through. LJ Semedo down the pit lane. And I think next time by, we're going to see a majority of these drivers come down the pit lane for the first stop of the day.
Yeah, I think that might end up being the case. On lap 6, we saw Faden pit. Lap 7, we saw Semedo pit. The pit road cycle is open for the first time of the day, and I have to wait and see how many cars just do end up paying this time by, but just a lot of good shoutouts so far, like Carson Miller, Sprint Series driver, Andy Miller had a bad season, but a good one. Ace Garcia, he's been the description of bad luck, especially in this early spring, like you said. Still trying to find a ride, and he's having a much needed one here today. And just same for Bo Crown Jr. is definitely having a good one for them here, and same Justin Lydell, Philip Torres, a lot of drivers that are non-chasers having good ones here early on, but it's still very early on. We still have 2 pit stops to go, and have to see what happens.
And of course, these road course races tend to be rather equalizing races for these drivers who are not in the chase. Obviously, Chase Buck got the win in Montreal earlier this season. Of course, last week at Road America, Ludovic Schredt and Nicolas Amedeo dominated, and here we go. Will this 51 be able to have a clean stop? I know you're holding your breath here, Stuart, but majority of these drivers coming down the pit lane right here. I say a majority of them. Nicolas Amedeo and Jack Haas staying out. It'll be interesting to see if that overcut works for them later on in this race. But right now, Ludovic Schredt in the 51 as Amedeo has gotten around Jack Haas. Imagine it's going to be a 4-tire stop for most of these guys. You may see some 2 tires here, but we're going to focus here on Ludovic Schredt and see what she does here on the pit lane. And 2-tire stop, and oh no, she got in the Justin coming off the pit lane there. I don't know if there's going to be heavy damage on that 51 or not, but that was a hard hit there on the pit lane for Ludovic Schredt. And Blaine Keys is going to close in. Oh my goodness. The curse of Justin Zeidel continues on for Grim Autosport here at Watkins Glen. I don't think that was as drastic as it was last year, but Stuart, what on earth went wrong there?
Oh, I just think it was just a bit of bad timing there. Justin obviously coming into his pit stall for his pit stop, and Ludovic's obviously finished her pit stop, and yeah, not ideal. Hopefully, no damage has to be repaired on the ensuing pit stop later down the line. But I think it did have an effect. You see a little bit of damage there on the 51. I think on the right side a little bit, like a little scrape there. Clearly was hit on the left side. But It's opened the door for Blaine Keys, who looks a bit closer now than did prior to the stop. And even Andrew Miller looks like it's closed in a bit. So I think the 11 as well, I think he had a really bad stop because he is, he's dropped a long way.
Yeah, not as used to running those pit stops there, Carson Miller, but still hanging strong. Meanwhile, let's check in on Matt Tuck and see where he is. And I don't think that they had to repair something, I feel like, because he did not get off the pit lane very well at all, and I see some damage on that 54 machine as well, so not looking good for Matt Tuck, not looking good for Justin Zeidel or Braden Perez. Both of those drivers deep in the field after their cycle, and those pit stops really shake things up. Rogel Dorn also deep in the field still in that 74 machine. We're going to have to see how it ends up shaking out for these guys. Nicholas Samadillo in the 59, Jack Kaz in the 39. 4 tires for Samadillo. That's an interesting pick right there. I'm going to have to see if that ends up working out for him. He is still in the pit lane. Uh-oh. They're keeping him on that pit lane a lot longer than they would have liked, and Samadillo's going to fall back a little bit right there because of that. Jack Kaz clearing away in the 39 machine, and he's going to be relatively in the same spot that he was in once the cycle began. However, both Jack Kaz and Nicholas Samadillo can make it, and same with Crampton, Hubert, D'Oliveira as well. They can stretch it all the way to the end and gas and go at the end of the race, and we'll have to see if they end up deciding on that strategy. That could definitely be something that is in their wheelhouse, but Ludovic Charette holds on to the race lead still. About the same distance between her and Blaine Keys, Andrew Miller, Ace Garcia, and Kirsten Bell, the top 5. And actually, Jack Kaz going to move up a couple of positions right here on that strategy, trying to get on Roberto Crown Jr. right there. Troxel in the top 10 as well. And how about Drew Webb? How did he end up in the top 20 here? He was down there with Matt Tuck earlier on, and he's definitely rebounded in this race. Rogel Dorn and Nicholas Samadillo both outside the top 20 now, so not a good cycle for those drivers, especially Samadillo, who just led the prior lap. Braden Perez slipping back. Trey Barto was already back in there, and Matt Tuck trying to close in on these guys and trying to salvage something in this race. But only Sam and Oskin below him. Everyone's still on the lead lap here at Watkins Glen. Definitely not a good run for Matt Tuck, but Ludovic Charette, his teammate, is still leading this race here, as we now have 9 laps to go in the Lake Effect Ice Cream 400K.
Well, I think the big word of the day is going to be strategy, and we saw right there. Fabian was the first one to pit, and then there was Smell. Majority of the cars pit on lap 8, lap 9, and then a couple stayed out. And like you said, maybe might look out for him, because with Jack Haas, he's now inside the top 10 and gained a few spots. I believe Crampton's now up inside the top 20, and I think everyone that pitted after everyone else gained a few spots at the moment, but I don't know if they can make it. If they can, it would be incredible, but if they can't, then they are setting themselves up to maybe just do a gas and go, like you said, and hope for the best. It's going to be strategy filled here for the next 9 laps, and it's going to be interesting on who can pull off the right strategy. I did see Skimmer off of the final turn 11 a lap or 2 ago, so something must have happened at some point, but tough break for maybe the 28 of Giacomo, maybe, but
No, he's sitting 39th, so it's a tough break regardless for him. But Matt Tuck has not improved much himself. It's not at all what we expected out of our points leader, and he's definitely hit that outside wall a few times. My goodness, you know, it's like it is a curse of being the points leader in this series, it feels like, especially during the chase. We saw it last year. I mean, how many times did Drew Webb have an opportunity to just pull away with it and blow a tire on the last lap while leading every single lap? I mean, gonna be fascinating to see how it ends up shaking out. Now, oh, here we go. The strategy begins now. Ludovic Charette already coming back down. This is gonna be interesting. This is her final stop. And I don't think it's to repair damage or anything either. However, we're going to have to see if she does stay on the pit lane to repair damage. And Stuart, you're holding your breath with this one, because they may be a little bit longer than they hope here because of that damage.
Yeah, I hope it plays out all right here. We don't have to repair damage. I'm not surprised by this. 2 right sides. They took the 2 left sides on the previous stop. I'm surprised Jack Haas is back down. Maybe a little bit of repair by the looks of it, but see here where she comes out. It's not really ideal, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be...
She's going to be behind all the lap traffic here.
Yeah,
or not lap traffic, but the back of the field.
Down to Mardi Gras. So, looks like got out clean. Looks like Andrew Miller got out clean. Jack Haas, Brain Perez. Matt Tuck came in. I'm not surprised by that. Looks like, damage repair on the 54. So, it's been a tough day for him. But now it comes down to whether or not, you look at Keys, you look at Bell. Okay, Bell is sneaky fast. So she's a sneaky... Oh, she got damage on the left side. That's not ideal. And so, maybe a little bit of right side damage as well. So she might have to repair that on pit stop. But Blaine Keys, now it's interesting. When will Blaine Keys pit? That's the question. Is he going to come down this time by, or is he going to let it play out for a few more laps, given he's got the clean air at the moment?
We'll have to see. Now, this race has gotten very interesting now because Ladovic's good to go to the end of this race. And we'll have to see if she can gain any time on Blaine Keys and make it harder for him to make his second stop of the race. Matt Tuck finally got back out there. He should be done for the day. And Blaine's not going to let Ladovic stay out too much here. Same with Kirsten. She's also coming down the pit lane as well for her second stop. Ace Garcia, they're all coming down right here. Nobody wants to get that advantage. Bryce Egan, that would have worked out if he didn't hit the outside wall right there. But a majority of the drivers hitting their window right here. Jesse Turner staying out. Matthew Hubert, LJ Semedo. Travis Crampton back in there. A lot of guys from the back of the field. I think Sam Badillo is still staying out as well in the 59. But pit lane is busy for the second stop right here. Blaine Keys already off in the 41. Ladovic driving around in turn 1. And Ladovic's going to have the advantage. Oh, man, it's a tough one. It's a tough... Oh, and Blaine... scraping the wall coming off the exit right there. Not a good exit there for Blaine Keys off the pit lane. And Kirsten Bell a little ways behind as well. This may play out for Ladovic because a lot more guys came down that time around than I expected, and she is going to have pretty good advantage on those guys she's racing with, especially Blaine Keys, who is half a straightaway behind now in that 41 machine.
Well, I said strategy was going to play a factor, and I didn't know if that strategy was going to work out for Ladovic, but I think she got lucky. The majority of the field pitted only a lap later, and now, with this the 69 of Bryce Egan out front, and then the 82 of Jesse Turner staying out, and have to see on when these drivers will pit. These guys don't really have anything to lose at this point, because we've not really seen them all race on up front. Could try a little something here, but I would imagine that these guys probably would pit either this lap or next time by.
We'll see how long some of these guys stretch it. Bryce Egan might try to stretch it here. Why not? Why not go for it? You got nothing to lose at this point in the season. Same with Turner, Hubert, Crampton. Semedo's going to come. Remember, Semedo was one of the first drivers down the pit lane on the first cycle, so he's kind of evenly splitting it up here. And these guys may have committed. Sam Medeo and Rogaldorn are a couple of these championship contenders who are committing right now. And we're just going to see how long they can stretch it. Of course, Sam Medeo was on the pit lane for a very long time. Keep that in mind. He can probably go longer than anybody else right here. But I don't think he's going to be able to make it to the end of the race. However, he can come in the pit lane, gas and go real quick, and try to get out there ahead of Blaine Keys and Ladovic's Rhett. But Ladovic's right there on that 51. She'll catch up to the back of this pack before it's all said and done. But those guys in the pack really have no chance unless they can, in fact, stretch it. But Bryce Egan, big wild card right here if he can pull this off. But it's all over the place right now, as Ladovic Charette is still in the best position, especially considering how far she is ahead of Blaine Keys. Andrew Miller actually got around Blaine Keys right there in that whole exchange. So, that 41 a little bit slow off there, and struggling on the road courses. This team has definitely had their fair share of issues here on these two road courses so far. But Blaine Keys going back to the Speedway 2 weeks from now in Michigan. Of course, Daytona Speedway. That team won the Valvoline 400 last year with Christian Master. And then, of course, Darlington, a Speedway as well. Definitely the tracks that suit Blaine Keys and Racing Motorsports. But they're going to have an advantage near the end of the season, no doubt about it. Kirsten Bell a little ways behind those guys. Jack Haas as well has already made his second stop. It's always kind of hard to tell how it all ends up cycling through. San Mateo's trying to get by all these guys so he can pull away from Charette, I feel like. We'll see if any of these guys come down right here. And none of them do. They're committed to stretch it as far as they can.
Yeah, the strategy was interesting. One thing I did note, obviously you saw Charette, Keys, Miller, they took the 2 tyres and when they pitted. Then you had San Mateo, on the first stop, sorry. Then you had San Mateo and I'd assume Dawn as well. They took 4 tyres. So the go here for San Mateo and Dawn and these guys, I would assume, is that to run as far as they can into this stint. Of course, if you can make it to the checkered flag with only 1 stop, that's great. But the likely thing here is that you're going to see San Mateo, I'd assume Bryce Egan onwards, they're going to pit about lap 17, 18, I'd assume. Top off and just gas and go, get to the end of the race. So it'll be interesting to see where they end up at the end of all this in relation to guys like Charette and Keys. And we've talked about the struggles. I just mentioned that Blaine Keys struggling maybe a little bit on this stint, but still having a very good afternoon, all things considered. It could be like Matt Tuck, who right now is in dead last. And for Matt, unfortunately, for the 2nd year in a row, he finished last in this race last year, and right now running last again.
That's actually almost worse this year because he's just running last and not taken out last. And that's just not the thing you want, is the points leader of the series. But so is the way of the road courses. Granted, though, a lot of the other championship contenders have run a lot better in this one. And they've kind of all been top 15, essentially, this entire day. We'll see. They're still staying out right here. San Mateo wants to clear right here. He really wants to clear this 00. He's got it now. He's got it now. That is Anthony McClure in the 00. Only his 2nd ever start in the Cup Series on this strategy as well. Ludovic Charette has closed up to the back of this pack, so she's got to be careful right here, getting around these guys, not to get caught up in anything. We still have all 40 drivers on the racetrack and on the lead lap. It has been a clean race here. Got to give these guys a lot of credit for letting the strategy play out, letting this race play out. And, hey, we're just going to have to see how it ends up shaking out, because San Mateo may have saved up his stuff enough to maybe stretch it, considering that he was on the pit lane as long as he was. I have a feeling that he may have pulled something that nobody else in this field did. And hey, remember North Wilkesboro? Remember the Winter Showdown? This team, they thrive on strategy races. That's how they roll. And if San Mateo can win this race, he would become the points leader easily. But Ludovic, if she wins this race, she would be the points leader. And we're going to have to see if one of them gets it done here today, or will it be somebody else? Because let's not count out Bryce Egan, Jesse Turner, and Matthew Hubert, who do in fact have an advantage there on those drivers behind them. Granted, they're only about 11 seconds ahead of Ludovic Charette right here. But I got to shout out the guy who gave us the name for this race all the way back in the day, and that is Jesse Turner. This is a bit of a home race for him as well. And here he is running in the 2nd position. Where's Jesse Turner? Forget, where is he going next? He's going to Hamill Racing Enterprises next year. So we'll have to see how well he does with Rogaldorn and that team. I think that's going to be a great fit for him. He is coming down the pit lane right here, and so is San Mateo, so I'm wrong about that.
Oh.
They're not going to be able to make it. And that's going to give Ludovic Charette a huge advantage here, because she's not racing with anybody on the same strategy as her. Andrew Miller is the next closest driver. Blaine Key's got to be careful not to wreck himself out, because he's also going to jump Matt Tuck in the points the way he's currently running, the way he will run at the end of this race.
Well, I would imagine it's going to be a gas and go stop for everyone that's going to pit, but that's big. For a split second, you know, I thought that, hey, this might be something like we saw in real life, and Bryce Egan could do a Brad Keselowski and try and slim margin make it on fuel, but I don't think that's going to be the case. But still, some good TV time, some good YouTube time for Hubert and Bryce Egan, you know. I don't know if he has a ride yet for next year or not, but if he doesn't, that's a good way to put the name out there.
Here's Bryce Egan was actually one of the first drivers to sign. He's going to be driving for Trackhouse next year. He'll be teammates with Bruno Diacomo over there. Of course, they're completely switching their program up again, so it's going to be interesting to see what those guys can do. I know Bryce Egan is very excited about that opportunity next year, however. How about Matthew Hubert? This is a driver who is currently leading the best of the rest right now, 13th in points, and he's got it by 53 points out of Logan Williams. He has absolutely been the best driver to miss the chase so far this season. I do feel like these guys are going to be coming down the pit lane right here, though, as they come to 2 laps to go here at Watkins Glen. And, in fact, Bryce Egan will come down, but Hubert is going to try to stretch it even further here in the Zero machine, so we'll see what he can do. Crampton also stretching it. Rogaldorn is still out there as well in the 74, but he's coming down the pit lane, and Bernardi Oliveira is going to miss the pit lane. That's a shame for him. And this will clear way to Ludovic Charette in the 51. And then there's Andrew Miller in the 97, the closest driver racing with Charette. So how about Charette? How about this team on these past 2 road courses? And a lot of it has to do with pit lane, and you guys at Ground Out Sport have done an excellent job pulling the strategy right. And only unless something drastic happens in these final 2 laps, it's looking pretty good for you guys to get your 3rd straight win in the Wawa Cup Series, and Ludovic 2nd, and Ludovic taking the point lead away from her teammate Matt Tuck. That would be something else right there.
Yeah, we've still got a long way to go, but even now, you look at the 2 guys ahead in Hubert and Travis Crampton. They're not chasers, so Charette is the highest chase driver in the field. So obviously, hopefully we win this race. Hopefully the 0 and the 98. Sorry, Nathan, have to pit, but I think Nathan, you'd still be happy with Andrew Miller. I mean, what a drive by him! I mean, to get past. And this is still on for what is effectively 2nd, but he's been fantastic. Andrew Miller today started 10th, and well, if pit strategy does play out, he's going to end up 2nd here. So as long as he can hold off Blaine Keys, look further down the order. Some a good recovery, I think, from Samadeo, but Dawn's struggling. He lost a lot of ground there in the 74.
Well, here's the moment of truth. Matthew Hubert, is he going to try to stretch it? He will not. Hubert coming down. He will not have enough fuel. Travis Crampton as well. So,
no.
Oh, no, he wasn't. Just really wasn't a chance for that to happen. And Ludovic Charette is going to take the white flag. Not officially. Hubert does lead the last lap, but Charette will take the white flag on the racetrack here at Watkins Glen. And we got a battle on for 2nd between Blaine Keys and Andrew Miller. Blaine wants every point he can get. He does not want Charette to pull away, and you know what? You know what? It's going to only be a couple points for the points lead between Charette and Keys going into Richmond next week if they finish where they currently are. Jack Haas and Kirsten Bell battling for position right here. Teammates there who are both still in championship contention. All these guys looking to surpass Matt Tuck in the championship. Thomas Troxel with a solid run. Sam Medeo rebounded a little bit right there. Rogaldorn definitely struggled there off the pit lane. And of course, Matt Tuck has just been in the back of the field pretty much this entire day. Brad Stover, our first casualty of the day, out of the race in the 88. Matt Tuck running in the 37th position. But Ludovic Charette just needs to run one more clean lap. And look at that margin of victory, a margin of the lead that she has right now on Blaine Keys. It's looking pretty good right now for this 51 team to get 2 wins in a row, her 3rd win of the season, assuming she can pull it off.
Yeah, what a drive by Ludovic. I mean, you see the margin that she's pulled out. This 2nd stint has been phenomenal. A great pit stop on pit road. Got her out into this position. Got out into clean air as well. Didn't really have to battle anybody on the racetrack. Andrew Miller and Blaine Keys did with some of the cars that were out of sync. But 51 going back to victory lane by the looks of it.
One more corner to go. Of course, they've been a lot cleaner on this corner today than they were on Wednesday. And Ludovic's going to have a clean one to get her 3rd win of the season here in the Wawa Cup Series. Ludovic Charette wins the Lake Effect Ice Cream 400K. That's 2 in a row for the 51 team. Blaine Keys, Andrew Miller, Kirsten Bell, Jack Haas, Roberto Crown Jr. will finish in the top 10. Matthew Hubert, Jesse Turner, and Thomas Troxel with Crampton rounding out the top 10.
How about Lodovic? Back-to-back all course win?
7.9 seconds.
Wow.
That is the largest margin of victory all season long here in the Wawa Cup Series. It's just a shame there aren't any more road courses because she has figured them out. 2 in a row on the road courses for Ludovic, Charette, and Grattan Autosport. That is your 3rd straight win as a team. The only downside is Matt Tuck's going to finish around the 37th position here today.
Well, you know what? It wasn't 40th, so it's better than last year. But you've got to take the positives where you can. With unfortunate for Matt, obviously he's lost so much ground today. I think it's a 43-point swing between Ludovic and Matt. So Ludovic was 19 points behind coming into this race. It's going to be 24 points between the two of them, and Ludovic going to be the championship leader. So how quickly things can change in this series. And I think after Pocono, Ludovic was, I think we were 1-2 at that point in the race, and Ludovic was flying. To be honest with you, it's not surprising. And I got to say as well, Ludovic, what she has done, and the decision, like some of the decisions, we take this pretty seriously, obviously, as a race team. And a lot of this, the performance of the road courses was really her own initiative to really fix up. And because we knew that these 2 races would be important. They're wildcard races in terms of you get a lot of guys that, you don't normally see up the front. They get good runs. Guys like Andrew Miller finishing 3rd. I think that's his 2nd top 5 of the season. Roberto Crown Jr., that's definitely one of the best runs they've had all season. Jesse Turner as well. So she knew the importance of these 2 races and has really come out and made a statement here today.
Absolutely has. And, if you say the ratings don't matter and it's all about luck, it ain't. These guys know what they're doing. I ain't going to say what they're doing. I can't, but they know what they're doing over there at Grattan Autosport. No doubt about it. That's their 4th win of the season as a team. Ludovic's 3rd win, and she is now the championship leader going into Richmond. But here's the thing. Everything's kind of back on even keel again. Matt Tuck, while finished 37th in this race, is still very much in contention. He's just going to have to do what he did again in this past couple of races. Of course, remember how strong Matt Tuck was at Pocono and Indianapolis. Michigan, similar strength there maybe. We'll have to see if he has a good run there. Richmond's another wild card, the last short track of the season. And of course, Daytona, another huge wild card. Just don't know how these last 4 races are going to play out for these guys. But you guys definitely have things figured out with 3 straight wins in the chase. And Ludovic Charette's the first driver to win 2 races in the chase this season as well. And rightfully so, she has taken the points lead. But not by much, ahead of Blaine Keys right there, because Blaine was 3 points ahead of Ludovic coming into this race, and Ludovic's only going to gain about 6 points. No, I think she's only going to gain... I'm trying to think here. I think she's only going to gain 5 points on Blaine Keys. It's going to be close. I think it will be 6. Blaine did lead a lap, I think. Did he? I'm thinking...
Yes, he did.
He did.
Yes,
so Blaine leading that lap does add a point to that margin there. So, regardless of the fact it's going to be really tight on top of the point standings, but it was nice to see, respectfully, this race be as clean as it was, especially compared to how it was last year, especially how last week's race was at Road America. And we're just going to have to see how the last 4 races end up going. But final thoughts on this one, guys, and how do you think this championship battle is going to play out with Richmond, Michigan, Daytona, and Darlington, the last 4 races of the season?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, go for it, Nathan.
Sorry, Stuart. Well, those 4 races are absolutely chaotic in a nutshell. Richmond, last short track, Daytona, last super speedway, and then, of course, the finale at Darlington. And it's going to be wild. If we see this, what we saw today, then Ludovic could be the championship favorite. I think Grattan's team is probably the favorite, but we've seen it last year in the Wawa Cup Series that it's changed on a dime before, and it probably will again. Great shouts to a lot of the drivers that need to go on site. Andrew Miller, Roberto Crown Jr., Matthew Hubert, Jesse Turner, Crampton Buck, Brian Webb, Philip Torres, a lot of good ones. Nice to see a double top 10 for that's racing one of the few times that's happened this year, but Place had a nice clean race, saw a massive strategy race, and good to see a clean one, and Ludovic goes back on the road courses. Good race here at Watkins Glen.
It's going to be...
absolutely. I think we're... Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I just want to just say this real quick. I love Australian internet. It's really good. It's like a massive delay between you guys. But Blaine Keys, I think he's still the favourite. I know that might sound ridiculous, but given how he's won 4 races this year, and you got to remember with Racing Motorsports how dominant they were at Daytona. Daytona's a track that is going to be so important. The 43 won that race a year ago, and the 41 started on pole, and those guys, let's be honest, they probably weren't doing their ratings at the time, so or at least what the drivers were. So I think with Blaine, he started on pole in the Daytona 500, and then of course we know how good he is at. He'll be great at Michigan and Darlington. So for us as a race team of the 51 and 54, it's just about matching his performance, and of course you got the Evans Ross cars that are going to be up there again. They're still going to be up there with Bell and Haas. Troxel's still going to be up there. So, you've got to nail every single race. It can't be understated. You can't have a bad day like Matt Tuck did today, or even Rokel Dawn finishing 25th. So,
that's another one.
Yeah, it's really, really important to ensure that. To ensure if you want to win the championship, you just got to run well at every type of track from here on in.
That's the way it goes. And hey, you get a top 5 in the next 4 races in your Ludovic Charette. Well, unless Blaine Keys does the same thing, I think you win the championship. But that's a lot harder said than done. But you guys have a lot of momentum there. But Racing Motorsports also has a lot of momentum. Keep in mind, Blaine Keys did what Matt Tuck didn't do in this race last week. Blaine started 35th at Road America and found himself in a top 20 position. That went a long ways to him being just a couple points behind Ludovic in this race. So now, every driver in the chase has had their bad luck race now. So now it's a clean slate again, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it ends up shaking out these last 4 races. Well, thank you so much for watching here today, and what a race it was for Ludovic Charette again. Even a more dominant win than it was last week at Road America, and she will be the new points leader. But how will the rest of the points shake out? You guys are going to see that right now. Thank you guys so much for watching once again. A huge thanks to Nathan Stapleton and Stuart Grant for joining me here tonight. And here are the points for the Wawa Cup Series after 26 races. Only 4 races to go until we crown a champion. Thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I will see you guys later.